Hello everybody and welcome back to Crafty Little Megan. This week I'm going to be showing you guys how to make some bead mosaic coasters. To start this craft, you'll spread a thin layer of wax adhesive over the entirety of the top surface of the coaster. When you get to the edges, you just kind of scrape it off to the edge and it'll create a pretty clean line and kind of cut the wax. You can find this wax in the candle making section of your craft store. I got mine at Michael's. It will be easier to spread the wax as well if you warm it in your hands for a little bit, or even kind of knead it between your fingers. It makes it a little bit easier to spread. Another good thing about coating, especially wooden coasters with wax, is that it makes it water resistant, and so you don't have to worry about the wood warping as much. The wax is also really good at holding the beads, and it holds them a lot tighter than you would probably think it would. So you don't have to really worry about the beads falling off. In the past, I've used the wax as well on glass and metal, and it holds tightly to those surfaces too. So if you can't find a wooden coaster, no worries. Any coaster you find should be fine with this technique. The goal with the wax is just to spread a really thin layer, just barely enough to hold the beads is fine, and you want it to be as uniform as possible. Obviously some areas are going to be a little bit thicker than others, but just a uniform thin layer is best. Once you have your wax spread out, it's time to adhere the beads. I just used some seed beads that I also picked up at the craft store. Sizing doesn't really matter that much. It is best if all of the beads are a uniform size though, so you'll see size 12, 10. It doesn't really matter what you pick, but just make sure that they're all the same size. Especially if you want to do geometric shapes, it makes it a lot easier. You might be able to see that I'm using a tool to put the beads on. The tool that I'm using is a hook tool with a point at the end. I picked it up at the Dollar Tree. It almost looks like a dental tool, but it's in the crafting section. Anything that you can stick into the little hole of the seed beads is what you're gonna want to use. You could probably even use a sharpened pencil or something, and then you dip the tip of that into the wax, and just a little tiny layer of wax will be enough to pick up your beads and make it easier to control where you're placing them on the coaster. I was inspired to do this project after visiting Mexico with my family, and I saw some traditional Mexican artwork, and they use these little seed beads and embed them in a layer of wax to make colorful designs and just decorative things. Usually the things that I see in Mexico are more of animals and more of a figurine, but I thought a coaster would be a more useful day-to-day item that could be fun to display around your house. I've also seen similar sets on diamond painting for diamond painting coasters, and this is very, very similar to diamond painting, but it's a lot more affordable, especially if you wanted a bunch of different colors of the beads, because you can buy multi-packs for dollars. I also like this idea a little bit more than diamond painting because it allows for more creative freedom. You get to pick the colors, the designs. On the coaster sets that I made every single coaster different, just so that it doesn't get too boring or tedious like diamond painting sometimes can. Now you will notice that when you buy your beads, even though they're sold by sizes and it seems like it should be precise, there will be a variation. Some of the beads will be fatter than others or longer than others, and just kind of pick out the ones that are outliers and don't really match. Sometimes those oddly shaped beads can actually be helpful, especially when you're trying to fill in an area. You might need a bead that's extra small or a little bit fatter, where you couldn't fit two beads, but you might be able to fit a thicker bead in. So don't necessarily throw them away, just kind of keep them to the side and pick them out, and you'll probably find a use for them at some point during this craft. Now I did mention early on that the wax holds the beads pretty securely into the coaster, but if you wanted to really make sure that they don't move, you could always coat them with a thin layer of Mod Podge. Maybe use the dishwasher Mod Podge so that it doesn't get kind of gummy if you have condensation from whatever you're placing on the coaster. Or you could probably use even resin to seal this. I've never had an issue, so I always just leave mine unsealed. But if you're worried, I mean, it does take a lot of time to put each of these beads on individually, so I could understand that you'd want to protect your project. You can see that I kind of stopped my triangle pattern, and now I'm just going on with a little strip of clear beads. I like to make the designs asymmetrical. I think it makes them look more modern and just more visually interesting. And so that's kind of something fun to play around with if you're thinking about different designs that you could use for your coasters. I use triangles, zigzags, squares. Geometric patterns I think are the most fun and easy to work with. But really, whatever you can dream of, you can make using these beads. This project would also be really fun to give as a gift, especially if you know somebody maybe for a housewarming. It's a unique handmade item that I think people would really enjoy, and definitely it's a useful item that people would need at their new home. So for a housewarming gift or any kind of gift where you don't want something super expensive, but maybe a handmade gift that just shows you were thinking of them, these are a really fun idea. You could also tailor these to the recipient using their favorite colors or a favorite motif if you know what they like. So don't hesitate to think about who you're giving these to, or even what you would like if you're using them in your own home. While I finish this coaster up, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching and display some of the other coasters that I made. I hope you have fun crafting!